journey deep into darkness. There will be no more stories after this one.
An independent game developed at the level of a AAA title, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is an unforgettable trip. Set in the late Iron Age period, Hellblade introduces players to the story of Senua, a female Celtic warrior who sets out on an arduous adventure in hopes of finding her lost lover Dillion, who also happened to be a villager of her tribe. Upon first impression, Senua seems like just another character pulled straight out of a typical hack-and-slash game. A mighty hero who vanquishes mythic monsters and corrupt gods, kind of like Kratos from the God of War series or even Dante from Dante's Inferno. This female heroine, however, is much more interesting than just those archetypes. Ironically, despite her superhuman combat skill, Senua is constantly struggling throughout her entire journey, making her a relatable character. Early on in the game, Senua is found to be touched by, quote-unquote, the darkness, a curse that she has been supposedly afflicted with by her own gods.
All of her suffering will have been for nothing.
In reality, this same curse is later known to be Senua's own psychosis, intensified through her shock of Dillion's death. Essentially, Senua is dealing with her own personal demons by overcoming the many manifestations of her own psychosis, constantly haunting her and demoralizing her. Whether it be slaying evil Northmen or hiding from stalking phantoms, Senua is always battling the psychological symptoms of her mental issue. Distorted elements, screeching sounds, and terrific visions are some of the many factors which provide a constant sense of tension for the player. The black rot surrounding Senua's right arm, representing insanity, progressively engulfs her body as the player makes more mistakes and dies. If one dies enough times, the dark tendrils covering her arm grow upwards towards her face, causing the game to permanently delete the entire save data. This death mechanic, while seemingly threatening, is nearly negligible considering the lack of real difficulty present during most of the game. The combat, while being visceral, intense, and seemingly engaging, often gets repetitive during the later parts of the game. Part of this issue is the lack of variety in the foes Senua faces off. There are about 5 or 7 different enemies you fight consistently, with only 2 or 3 different bosses that provide somewhat of a challenge. But even on the hardest difficulty setting, enemies seem sluggish and slow enough for the combat to be forgiving. The time slow mechanic, which is activated upon a perfect parry or dodge, makes Senua a tad bit overpowered at times, allowing her to destroy her foes within just a few hits. With enemies having predictable attack patterns, and Senua having very few combat mechanics and only a sword at her arsenal, Hellblade's combat feels lackluster overall. Hellblade's game progression is also very linear. Players will find themselves moving from one point to the next one without having to go back to a previous location to progress through the content. You could almost say that it's at the level of linearity as Final Fantasy XIII was. On the flip side, however, this linearity allows room for compelling character development for protagonist Senua, who is beautifully motion captured by Melina Jurgens, who also happens to be the video editor of the game.
You took him from me. I beg you, let him go.
If there's something to praise Hellblade for, it's most definitely for its representation of human psychosis and mental health issues. This comes to no surprise, as Ninja Theory, the development team behind the game, worked directly with mental health psychologists and patients to produce creative depictions of psychosis. As portrayed in Hellblade, Senua's delusions sometimes prove to be useful in her progression. The chattering background noises, often gossiping about Senua with the intent of demoralizing her, occasionally warn her about possible enemies ambushing from behind and about any other incoming danger. At certain points of the game, Senua has to even match runic symbols with combined environmental shapes in order to open mystically sealed doors. Other times, the player will have to walk through portals to unravel path openings, or even peer through an ominous mask in order to see area-wide puzzles in a different perspective. While sometimes suffering from a lack of complexity and difficulty, Hellblade is incredibly varied in itself. The game is a formidable mix of different genres. There's a little bit of horror survival squeezed in, a handful of puzzle solving, and action-packed hack and slashing melded together with an interesting action-adventure storyline. All of these game elements are embellished by delightful Nordic aesthetics, gorgeous graphics, and narrated tidbits of Scandinavian mythology. In addition to all of this, the developers at Ninja Theory have injected their game with formidable audio-technical design. This game is a must-play with headphones. From the distorted sound of screams, the unnerving background chatter, the distant beast growls, to the mesmerizing soundtrack, Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice is a perfect example of passion poured into audio production. The amount of work Ninja Theory has dedicated towards perfecting this aspect of the game certainly paid off, making Hellblade's atmosphere a terrific single-player experience. If you are looking for one hell of a cinematic and immersive adventure, then do not skip Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice. And that is why Hellblade deserves an 8.5 out of 10 out of me. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this review, please remember to like the video and to subscribe for more video game related content. Want to support this YouTube channel even further? Consider pledging $1 minimum over at patreon.com/IcyVolk. IcyVolk signing off. Until next time, folks. Goodbye.